That's when I decided. If they wanted the house, they could have it, but not as a gift, and not without understanding whose blood, sweat, and sacrifices built it. This wasn't just a building with walls and windows. This house was my life, my story, my sanctuary through storms, heartbreaks, and years of silence. They thought they could erase me like an old picture on the wall, but I wasn't going to disappear quietly. I would leave a mark, a loud, unforgettable one. Not through shouting or revenge, but through power. The quiet, unstoppable kind that moves beneath the surface and topples everything when it finally rises. That night, I lay on the stiff guest room mattress, staring at the same ceiling I painted with stars when Darius was 7. Back then, he would lie on my chest and whisper dreams of becoming a pilot, asking if the stars could hear him. And now, that same boy, now a man with a cold heart, had locked me in that very room like a burden. But as I stared upward, something inside me cracked open. Not from pain, but from awakening. I wasn't just a mother. I was a warrior, a survivor, a woman who had buried a husband, raised a child alone, stitched meals from empty pantries, and smiled through tears every holiday. I was not done, not by a long shot. Marissa thought she had won. She walked around in my kitchen like a queen, speaking about the new vibe of the house and criticizing my furniture. She made remarks about how elderly people should think about assisted living. Darius? He laughed nervously, never defending me, never remembering the sacrifices I made when his father died, and I worked double shifts to pay for his education. He used to run to me with bruised knees and call me his hero. Now, he looked past me like I was just the wallpaper. I let them talk. I smiled. I served them food, made tea, folded their laundry, and played the fool. But every evening, when the dishes were done and the doors closed behind me, I was planning. Quietly. Firmly. I called a lawyer, an appraiser, and a realtor. Every call was a step toward freedom. Every document signed was a piece of my soul reclaiming its space. I found out the transfer wasn't complete. My name was still the primary owner on the deed. That was my weapon, and I held it close like a sword behind my back. 3 weeks passed. They remained clueless. One afternoon, while they were out shopping for drapes for their new master suite, the realtor visited. We toured the house like old friends. I showed her the oak tree Darius planted when he was 10, the fireplace we built brick by brick, and the corner of the hallway where his height was etched each year. She teared up. "This house has a soul," she whispered. I nodded. Yes. But it deserves people who recognize it. Soon after, a young couple made a cash offer. They had the same glow my husband and I once did before cancer took him and life hardened me. I accepted it. Quietly. No announcement. No drama. I waited until the deal closed. That evening, as Darius and Marissa sipped wine on the back porch, laughing, unaware, I walked out, holding the final papers like a birth certificate. I stood tall. "You've got 30 days to vacate," I said, calm as still water. "The house is sold." Darius's glass slipped and shattered. Marissa turned pale. "What?" she gasped. "You can't do that." But I already had. It was done. Their voices became noise behind me. I didn't explain. I didn't yell. I didn't need to. Every cruel word they ever said, every slammed door, every moment of humiliation, they led to this moment. I turned and walked inside, standing alone in my empty bedroom, breathing in the silence like fresh air after storm. I thought I would cry, but instead I smiled. The next 30 days passed quickly. They packed in quiet anger, avoiding me like a ghost. I didn't lift a finger, not even to say goodbye. I had done enough. On the final day, I watched them drive off, leaving tire marks on the street I once swept every morning. I locked the door behind them for the last time. No regret, no guilt, just peace. I moved into a small apartment near the community center. It wasn't grand, but it was mine. My walls. My peace. No tension. No cold silences. Just the sound of my own laughter, echoing freely. I began volunteering at the center, teaching young single mothers how to budget, save, and believe in themselves. They reminded me of who I used to be before I forgot that I mattered too. I didn't tell them my story at first. I just listened. Then one day, a girl broke down, saying she was tired of giving and getting nothing back. I sat beside her and told her, gently, sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away and build something new with the pieces they tried to break. I heard later that Marissa tried to sue me. She failed, of course. The papers were bulletproof. I had dotted every I and crossed every T. Darius never called. Not even once. But I didn't cry. I didn't break. I simply reminded myself. I gave him life. I gave him love. I gave him everything I had. But I refused to give him my dignity. People often confuse silence for weakness. But silence can be the beginning of the loudest truth. The kind of truth that doesn't scream. It radiates. The kind that builds new homes, new stories, and new beginnings. That house wasn't just wood and nails. It was my legacy. And legacies aren't inherited, they're earned. They don't belong to those who dishonor them. They belong to the ones who built them, piece by piece, year by year, through joy, heartbreak, and endless resilience. I didn't lose a son. He lost a mother. A mother who would have stood in front of a train for him. A mother who gave up dating, vacations, and sleep so he could grow. And all she asked in return was respect. When he chose silence, I chose power. When he shut the door, I built another one. And when he tried to take my story, I wrote a new one, on my own terms. Now, every morning, I make coffee in my tiny kitchen and look out the window at the world I rebuilt. Sometimes I get visits from the young moms I mentor. They bring cookies, laughter, and dreams. They remind me that there's always someone watching, always someone learning from how you rise after being broken. My story is not one of revenge. It's one of rebirth. If this story touched your heart, even a little, then you already know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who needs to be reminded. Dignity is not something anyone can take from you. You protect it like fire. And when you rise with it, you light up everything they tried to burn.